Bună seara, Tîrgu Mureș. That's about the limit of my Romanian, so I'll give the rest of the speech in English. The good news is I'm the last speaker for today. So just bear with me, give me the proverbial 15 minutes of fame that everyone is entitled to. A lot of the other speakers today have been talking about success. They have given you stories of how they built something up, how they launched a business, how they are progressing in their career, how they are working on becoming millionaires. By that standard, I'm going to be a bit of a disappointment, because my story goes exactly the other way around. Until 6 years ago, I worked as a lawyer in Germany. I had my own law firm. I was very busy. I was doing well. Today, I'm something like a hobo, like a vagabond, like a nomad. I don't have a job. I don't have a fixed income. I don't own a house. I don't own an apartment. I don't own a car. I don't even have a bicycle. I'm moving around the world, living here and there for 3 months, for 6 months, never longer than 1 year. But, as you can hopefully find out today, I am a happy, cheerful, content, and satisfied guy. Although, or maybe because, I gave up my company, my job, my income, most of my possessions, and the social status and the security that came with it. Now, my focus is mainly on traveling, but not as a tourist, but more as an explorer, as someone who prefers to stay for a couple of months in one place to really get to know the culture, the people, the history, the politics, the social issues of a place. Of course, I still have to work a little bit. I do some freelancing here and there, but never more than necessary. The career is no longer the focus of my life. The focus is more on learning and experiencing new things. So obviously, this kind of lifestyle raises a whole number of questions. People all the time ask me, like, how do you finance this? How do you decide where to move next? Don't you miss your family? Aren't you lonely? When are you going to settle down? How long do you want to do it? And so on and so on. So I could talk all day, but that's probably why the organizers of this event put me at the very end, so they know that I can't do it. So I have to focus on one subject, and because the theme of today's TEDx conference here in Tîrgu Mureș is Seeds of Change, and because I have no idea of seeds, I will talk about change. So I'm going to talk about how this came about, how this rather dramatic change in my life. And it all happened 6 years ago, when I took a time out. I had 1 week with no internet, no email, no phone, no newspapers, no news, no books, no television, no appointments, no stress, nothing. I was completely isolated from the world. In fact, nobody even knew where I was. But I had something which most people are never going to have in their life. I had a whole week just to think, without any distractions. Now, if you think, oh, that's a cool idea, I want to do that as well, and you want to go to a monastery or pack a bag and go to the forest for a week or so, I'm not sure it's going to work the same way, because if you plan that for 1 week, you will probably think about what you want to do after that week. You take the 1 week off, but you're already going to think about, oh, next Monday I'm going to be back in the office, I'm going to have that pile of work, because I haven't been at that work for a week. So I'm not sure it helps that much. In my case, what made it special, and this was not of my decision, it just happened to me, what made it special is that I didn't know from the beginning how long the timeout would take. And I actually thought that it would take for a couple of years. And now I guess I have to tell you what happened. In summer of 2009, I was traveling in Iran, and those of you who are very interested in politics, they know that back then there was the so-called Green Revolution going on. I am very interested in politics, so of course I joined the protests. I went there, met lots of people from the opposition and so on. Got quite severely beaten up in some of the protests by the police, but always managed to run away, to escape arrest. But ultimately I was arrested, or rather kidnapped, by the Iranian intelligence service, and I was taken to Evin prison in Tehran. Put in solitary confinement, just being dragged out from the cell every night for hours of interrogation, always blindfolded, and never knowing what's going on, what's going to happen next. Of course, nobody was informed, none of my family, not the embassy, nobody. And after 2 days, I thought, well, that's going to last for a long time, because I had read other stories of foreigners being interned in Iran, and usually they stayed in prison for 2 or 3 years. And so I thought, well, I was taking part in the revolution, so I'm definitely going to stay here for 2 or 3 years. Then you start thinking, what's going to happen with my previous life, or with the life that you have had until that day? And obviously, I mean, the clients that I had in Germany, they're not going to wait for a couple of years for me to come back. They would go to other lawyers. The law firm would somehow fall apart, implode, or be dissolved, or be taken over by someone else. And then something surprising happened. Because then I realized that actually that thought didn't scare me. And instead, I found myself in a situation where I could start my life again, or planning for my life again, from zero. Back then I was like 32 or 33, and so I thought, okay, I'm going to stay in prison for 2 or 3 years, and I'll be 36, 37 or so when I come out. As long as I can somehow manage to keep myself physically fit, I'll be fine. I'll be in the middle of my life still. I'll just start again from zero. And I thought, what do I really want to do? And that is when I was thinking, well, actually, I really miss spending a lot of time in nature. I miss reading long books. And I mean, most definitely, I'm not going to go back to an office to sit there for 12 hours at a desk and shuffling papers and working out other people's problems who can't work them out themselves. Particularly because these were very minuscule problems in comparison to the things that I had seen in Iran. I mean, I heard the people in the cells next to me being tortured. I mean, I thought that seeing people being shot and bleeding to death in the streets at the protests where I had been. I knew that in the prison where I was, that in the courtyard at that time, they were executing people by hanging them. So of course this gives you a completely different perspective of life, and suddenly a new appreciation for life, and you don't want to waste it anymore. And for me, continuing what I had done so far, it seemed like a waste. So obviously I am not suggesting that you go to some Middle Eastern country while there is a revolution going on and try to get yourself locked up. Also, it's a very hard thing to plan. I am actually not even suggesting that all of you give up your job to go traveling around the world, because that's not for everyone. But what I do think is, just like that dream did not come to me suddenly out of nowhere in that one fateful week, I think that most of you have something deep in your heart that you know you still want to do it in your life. Only you know what it is, but you shouldn't wait any longer. You should go for it, you should do it, and you shouldn't wait for luck to strike. And most people, I think, who have this kind of wish, or they think, I want to change something in my life, they often don't do it because they are waiting for the perfect moment. And they think, I still need to plan it better, and I need to do this, and I need to save something, and so on. And they are only ready to make that jump when the situation that they are going to is 100% perfect. But it won't be, because it's the future, and it's an alternative, and you don't know how it's going to be before you try it. And my argument is that you should not seek perfection. You should not seek even constant improvement. My argument on the subject of change is that change, just for change's sake, is actually a good thing. Just changing your situation to something completely different, whether it's better or worse. I mean, of course, only slightly worse. It's better than staying in the status quo forever. Why? Because all of you are at least going to be 70 or 80 years old. And the younger ones of you, you might have a life expectancy of up to 100 years, and in relatively good health. So the old standard of finding one partner and living in the same house, in the same city, in the same country, doing the same job for the same company until you retire, that doesn't work anymore. That was okay when people died at age 40 or at age 45, but now when we live twice as long, that would be a hell of a boring life. And the world is such a big and beautiful and diverse and interesting place. Why on earth would you stay in one city, in one country for all of your life? Go out, explore it. It's really, I mean, it's nice here, very, very nice, really. I mean, it's not for nothing that I stayed in Tîrgu Mureș for 1 year, but it's also very nice and interesting somewhere else, actually. And the same about jobs and careers. I hope that most of you are lucky enough to have a job or to pursue a career or to study for a degree that you really like, that your heart is in. But surely you won't claim that this is the only field that you're interested in. Surely if you have a job that you're talented for, it's not your only talent. You have other talents as well. Now obviously you cannot do like 5 or 6 jobs at the same time, but we all live long enough, we can do them consecutively. Do something different every 3 years, every 5 years, every 7 years. In my experience, this has kept me young. By doing something completely different, by moving to a new country, like speaking a new language, or at least listening to a new language, learning about a new culture, it's always a new intellectual challenge. You know, I always feel like in the first year of university, where you get bombarded with so much information. It keeps you young, it keeps you fit, and it keeps you in good spirits. I feel like on constant holiday, basically. Even in a few days when I'm sitting at home and just working, I am doing this in a city where I haven't been last year and where I'm not going to be next year anymore. I'm always somehow moving about, moving around, and therefore always have this constant traveling feeling. Now, I very often hear from people say, oh, I wish I had that courage. Or they say, oh, Andreas, you are so brave. I mean, it's very nice to get compliments. Although in reality, I often think they want to say, oh, Andreas, you're so crazy. And it's just, you know, they try to find a positive synonym for crazy, and then they call me brave. But honestly, I'm not. I'm not brave. I mean, I don't jump out of airplanes. I don't do bungee jumping. You know these adventure parks where you have to walk from one tree to the next. I'm even scared of those. I'm terribly scared of snakes. I'm not a brave guy. And I don't think it does require courage, because courage is required if there is a huge risk. But there isn't much of a risk. Consider yourself. Consider yourself and put yourself into the situation, and let's imagine that tonight you're going to send an email, because you'll be so inspired by this speech. You're going to send an email to your boss, and you're going to tell him or her, no, Monday morning I'm not going to show up for office. I'm sick of this job. You tell your friends goodbye, you pack a bag, go to the train station, you take a train, I don't know, to Odessa, to Istanbul, wherever, and you go traveling for as long as you want. What's the worst case scenario? What's the worst case scenario that will happen? Well, you're not going to enjoy it anymore after a while. After a year, after 2 years, maybe after a few months already. Or you're going to run out of money. But of course, you have to find some jobs in between, do some odd jobs here and there. It's not that expensive, mostly, but that would be the subject of another talk. But the worst case scenario, you have to come back after a couple of years. You will need to spend some time to find a job. Let's say really worst case scenario, you don't have any savings left, nothing. Well, you have to move back to your parents. You don't need to pay any rent. You live with people who love you, and let me tell you, they will love you so much more after you've been gone for 4 years and you haven't called them for a while. They will be so happy that you are even alive. And you will no longer need to be jealous of your little sister or your little brother, because you are going to be the lost son or the lost daughter who will return. Your mom is going to cook for you, maybe even twice a day, and the food is going to be better than some of the stuff you had to eat, particularly if you went to Asia on trips. You don't need to eat like, I don't know, monkey brain in snake skin with 100-year-old eggs anymore, but you get like really proper food like sarmale or goulash or so. And you have so many good stories to tell, and you're going to be the star of every party. So if that is the worst case scenario, if that's the worst thing that can happen, what on earth is stopping you from doing that? I'll tell you what the real risk is. The worst thing, the worst case scenario, is to waste your life. To do the same things over and over again. To give up on your dreams. To postpone them. or to find excuses. Now, if you do that, and of course, as I said, it's just an example. I don't want everyone to pack their bags and go traveling, also because then maybe the places that I want to go are going to be very crowded suddenly. And I know also that some people need to do like really serious jobs, like work in hospitals and stuff, and fly the planes that I use. So it's good that not everybody does that. But I know some, you will ask me, I don't know, won't like unexpected things happen? Isn't it dangerous? Maybe, possibly so. But that is the beauty of it. That is the beauty of it, that unexpected things will happen. Imagine your life as a book or a movie. And now imagine that if everything is always going right, and if you're always happy, and you're always successful, and you're always staying on the safe side, and every year you're doing the same every year. That would be the most boring film ever, and nobody would watch it. And if the book about your own life is so uninteresting that you yourself wouldn't read it, then something is wrong. Change it. You can do it. I wish you good luck. Thank you.